So we talk about real things here, real things so that God can bring freedom. And today, it's gonna get real. So I'm warning you, spoiler alert, it's gonna get real. We're gonna tell you some real stuff today. Stuff that we're dealing with, stuff that all of us deal with because we're not trying to play church. And we want the power of God unleashed in our lives, which is why we're kicking off, this new year with this series that we've just been calling Crushing the Chaos. Crushing the Chaos, because we've all experienced seasons of life that feel a little bit chaotic. If you wanna know what chaos means, this is the definition, this is the technical definition. Chaos is just a state of confusion or disorder. Kind of simple, a state of confusion or disorder. I think that's important to see because some of you are here and you're like, I don't know my life is chaotic, but we've all felt moments in life that felt confusing. We've all felt moments in life that felt a little bit out of order, that we really didn't know. I've had more seasons in my life than I can count where I felt like it was hard to see my way through that season. Confused about what to do, stuck, feeling unclear about how to move forward. Chaos feels like the fears and anxiety we experience over the future. Chaos feels like the isolation we experience at times, wondering if anyone really understands what it feels like to go through what we're going through. That's the feeling of chaos. Chaos feels like the frustration we experience when we cannot seem to move past the same struggles, same temptations we've been facing for years. We can't seem to move past it. That's what chaos feels like. And what we need most for the chaos in our lives, I'm just telling you, lean into this, we do not need another self-help book. We do not need another podcast that has the latest hack for how to get the most out of life. What we need most to crush the chaos in our lives is a God who is big enough to walk with us through it and lead us out of it. And last week, we discovered how God leads us and walks with us through the deep waters of anxiety and fear, that chaos. And today, I want to talk about what to do when the darkness of depression and discouragement settles in on us or the people we love. What about that kind of chaos? It feels like darkness, discouragement, depression. I know you probably don't need me to make a case for why we got to talk about this, but I'll just say a few things. According to the polling organization Gallup, nearly 1 in 5 American adults now say that they either have depression or are being treated for it. And that's self-reported, which means the number's higher. That is the highest level ever recorded in their decades of polling. And that means right now, wherever you are, if you just counted every 5th person, that means every 5th person knows what darkness feels like, has felt what it feels like to be in a pit every now and then, in a valley. It's not just adults. According to the research summarized in Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, if you are a parent, you need to read that book. And if you're like, I don't want to read a big, thick book, then go to ChatGPT and go, give me an executive summary of the anxious generation, because we need to know this as parents, what our kids are facing right now. And in Jonathan Haidt's work, he brings out that the rates of depression and persistent sadness increased dramatically over the last 15 years, not incrementally, hockey stick. More than half of teenage girls report prolonged feelings of sadness and hopelessness in a given year. And the numbers have risen for boys as well. And here's all I'm trying to say, all right? This is all I'm trying to say with all this. The darkness of depression and persistent sadness and discouragement, it is no longer the exception in American life. They are increasingly part of the emotional background noise of our culture. It's just in the air. It's in the air. And so we have to talk about how do we move forward even when it feels like darkness has settled in over us. This is gonna be very personal for some of you. And I'm so glad that we get to talk about this. To guide our conversation today, I actually wanna walk through a fascinating story in the Bible that has been a guide for me when I've had the darkness of discouragement and depression settle in over me and my loved ones. And so as you'll see, this passage is so honest. It is so helpful for any of us who have gone or are going through the darkness of discouragement and depression. I usually put passages on the screens. Today, I actually want you to turn in your Bible at your seats. If you don't have one, since it's a little bit of a longer story, you can scroll there on your mobile device. It's 1 Kings chapter 19. It's page 277 if you're using a Bible at the seats. Scroll there, get there in your Bible app. I don't really care, just get there. Google it, 2 Kings 19, just get there, all right? Let me give you a little bit of context as you're turning there as to what you're gonna see in just a moment. This is a story about a man named Elijah. And Elijah was a prophet. And if you don't know what a prophet was someone who was set apart by God to speak on God's behalf. In other words, Elijah was close to God. Elijah was committed to God. Elijah was a man of deep, connected faith in God. That's important to remember. He spends his whole life trying to help other people realize that any other God that you run to other than the one true God, all the local gods, all that, they're fake. And one day, he has this moment on top of this mountain. It was a mountain called Mount Carmel. And he has this moment with all these people who were worshiping this false god named Baal. And in chapter 18 of 1 Kings, we're not gonna read it. You should go back and read it. It's an awesome story. But in that chapter, Elijah stands in front of all these followers of Baal. In fact, he gets about 400 of them, and he lays down a dare. He lays down a challenge. He's like, all right, I got a challenge for you. Let's see whose God is real, and let's see whose God is fake. So he says, look, if Baal is truly God, then I want you to put a sacrifice on the altar, and I want you to pray, and you ask Baal to burn up that sacrifice. So they do. These 400, prophets of Baal, they get this sacrifice, they put it on the altar, and then they start chanting and hooting and hollering and doing all that stuff, right? They're doing the Eagles chant. I don't know, they're doing something, right? They're trying to get energy. They're trying to get momentum, and nothing happens. This goes on for hours. Nothing. Now Elijah, it's like he pulled up a lawn chair and he's just sitting back. He's just watching all this for a few hours. He's actually making fun of them. It's a funny story about like, oh, maybe you should talk louder. Maybe he doesn't hear you. He actually says at one point, he's like, maybe Baal's in the bathroom. Maybe you need to call him out. He says that. Then Elijah, they get done with all this, nothing happened, and then Elijah steps in. He's like, watch me. It's almost like, to be honest, it's kind of like, hold my beer, watch, all right? That's what he does. He steps up, and he puts the sacrifice on the altar. In fact, he actually takes water, pours it on the sacrifice so everybody knows this isn't magic. And he just prays a simple prayer. He says, God, show these people that you are the one true God and consume this sacrifice. And fire from heaven consumes this sacrifice. And it's obvious to everyone there that Baal is no God at all. And it is this powerful moment in Elijah's life. He is affirmed. He's just been used in an incredible way by God. He is close and intimate with God. That is one moment. The next moment, everything changes. Because the queen in the land, her name was Jezebel, not a good woman. And Jezebel hears about what's happened. And she gets word that the god Baal that she's led everybody to worship has just been proven to be a fraud. And so she makes a threat against Elijah's life, puts a public announcement out there and says, I want Elijah dead within 24 hours. And Elijah gets word of this threat, and it sends him into a spiral. Look what it says, 1 Kings chapter 19, look at verse 3. It says, Elijah was what? Afraid. And he fled for his life. He went to Beersheba. That was about 100 miles away from where he was, by the way. That was a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone, remember that, into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree, and he prayed that he might die. I've had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors who have already died. I want you to think about this description of Elijah. This strong, God-honoring, passionate, committed, convicted man of God, a leader. And here he is with all of the markers of depression. He's alone, withdrawn from others. He's apparently not eating, as you'll see in just a moment. A sense of despair and hopelessness hangs over him to the point of not wanting to live anymore. You know, it strikes me that we tend to see sadness as a negative emotion. I don't know if you ever thought about it like that, but we don't tend to give a lot of space for ourselves or people around us to experience sadness. In other words, when someone shares great news with us, we're really good at celebrating with them. We're like, let's go celebrate. Let's go out to eat, man. Let's get some balloons, right? We want to live in that moment. But when someone shares their sadness or grief with us, I don't know how you are. Here's what I typically do. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it'll be fine, buddy. You want to go get dinner? Right? I don't know what to do with it. We don't really know what to do with that. So we tend to try to move past it really fast. And the effect that has on so many of us is that we learn real early on to push down the emotions like sadness that we tend to view as negative. Push those down. But the problem with stuffing emotions like sadness or grief is that they actually don't go away. They just get stored up. It's not like they go away. Men, let me just talk to you for a second. This is particularly relevant for us as men. Did you know that there's studies out there that show that young girls, like in elementary age, young girls in social settings are typically rewarded early in childhood when they articulate feelings and work towards relational connectedness. That's celebrated in their social circles. And on average, little girls tend to be discouraged or punished socially when they demonstrate assertiveness, all right? Let's flip the coin. Boys. On the other side, studies have shown that young boys tend to be rewarded socially in peer groups for assertiveness, but are punished socially for articulating feelings and discouraged from relational connectedness. Here's my point. We learn real early on to not talk and just keep stuffing. I'll be honest, one of the darker seasons of my life when I felt darkness, it happened when I was in the middle of a lot of transitions. Transitions can do that. And we had a lot of transitions happening in my life, and we had gone from 1 kid to 2 kids. I thought that was just gonna be like, oh man, we had 1, we can have 9, it's all the same. No. So we had gone from 1 to 2. We had moved homes in the middle of that. So now we have a completely different home, completely different environment. Beyond home stuff, I had a lot of other stressors in my life at the time, outside of family and home stuff, that I just felt like it got to the point where I just needed to get it out. You ever felt that way? I just got to unload, man, some of this. And so I needed to talk to someone. So I went and actually started seeing a counselor just to talk through some of this. And I remember him saying to me at one point, I'm telling him all this stuff I'm feeling, I'm telling him all this stuff I'm going through. And then he just says to me at one point, man, he's like, man, you're depressed. You know what counseling feels like sometimes? It feels like I pay you money to make me mad. That's what it feels like. Because I'm mad right now that you just said that. In fact, I reacted. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I fire back real quick. What are you talking about? I'm depressed. I don't cry all day. I don't go sit in a dark room and pull the shades down. That's how I was like, I don't do that, which shows how stupid I am. And he opened my eyes at that moment. He's like, oh, you don't understand depression. He actually opened my eyes to the difference between overt and covert depression. Overt being obvious, covert being hidden. So overt depression, the obvious sort of symptoms, that demonstrates through all the typical ways you would think of. Apathy. It's overt depression, right? Loss of appetite, increasing isolation. But covert depression, way more subtle. Covert depression manifests itself in very masked ways. Physical aggression, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, failure in intimacy, self-sabotaging careers. See, we might not be drawing the shades down and sitting in the dark all day by ourselves, but there are other ways we tend to mask and numb sadness. And the truth is that we cannot move towards healing that God has for our lives while stuffing sadness and grief. And let me tell you where it gets really toxic. See, culturally, we already got issues. Culturally, we're sold this idea that sadness needs to be pushed down. It's a negative emotion, and we really don't know how to grieve well. But where it gets toxic is that some of you have bumped into religious people in churches, and at some point in life who have spiritualized it all, as if sadness and seasons of depression are signs that we're not trusting God enough, that we just need more faith, that we just gotta pray harder, and that part of what it means to be a person of faith is to rise above all those negative emotions, and just be joyful, just play the game. Finitis. Doesn't work that way. This is why I love stories like Elijah's that are in the Bible. A man of deep, passionate faith who is in the darkness, pulling the covers over his head, not wanting to get out of bed. And Elijah is not alone in the scriptures. You know, the Bible's full of this. Listen to it. Here's 4. I could have given you 400 examples. Here's 4. Psalm 88. This is a prayer written down. Listen to this. Darkness is my closest friend. That's a person of faith saying that. Another psalm, Psalm 6:6. All night I flood my bed with weeping, drenching it with my tears. You want to talk about grief? They're experiencing it. This is Jeremiah. He was another prophet close to God. This is what he says at one point because of how much pain he had gone through. He says, why was I ever born? My entire life has been filled with trouble, sorrow, and shame. And then I love this. Isaiah 53:3 says this. He was despised. He was despised and rejected. A man of sorrows and acquainted with deepest grief. You know what makes that statement so fascinating? Who is the he that Isaiah is referring to? It's Jesus. Jesus. a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. There's nothing you've ever walked through in your life that Jesus does not understand. And I mean the darkest pits. And if someone ever tries to sell you on the idea that if you're truly a person of faith, you wouldn't be experiencing mental health issues, you wouldn't be struggling with depression or discouragement or anxiety or fear, you should run. Because they don't know the Bible. And they don't understand God's goodness and grace. And nothing could be further from the truth. And Elijah falls into this long line of people of deep and abiding faith who have felt the darkness of depression fall over them. He expressed it so honestly, didn't? Do you remember what he prayed? This is what he prayed. I've had enough, Lord. That's a prayer. I've had enough, Lord. You ever felt that way? I've had enough. I've had enough grief. I've had enough loss. Is it ever gonna be enough? I've had enough failures. I've had enough pain. When's it gonna stop? Enough being overlooked, enough being ignored, enough being excluded. He is so honest before God here. Did you know God can handle anything that you have? You can be honest and real before God. That's what prayer is. God is so close and he is intimate. He loves you so deeply. And he can handle all of the prayers that erupt from your heart, even in the darkest moments. But Elijah doesn't stop there. That's not how his prayer ends. He goes even further in his prayer and his openness. I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. Take my life. So I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. Elijah's suicidal. In other words, he's saying that the only reason he won't take his own life right now is because he's in the desert and doesn't have a way to do it. So he begs God to do it. I want to take a second. I just want to address suicide. I told you we're going to talk real, so we're going to talk real. Because some of you have been told a lie at some point about suicide. Some of you grew up in religious settings that told you that anyone who dies by suicide automatically goes to hell. I want you to know, you can read every page of the Bible and you will not once find that in there. It's not true. The work of Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone is what brings us back into relationship with God. Not any works on our end, good or bad. And for those who have placed their faith and trust in Jesus Christ and his work on the cross for them, not even suicide can erase the saving work and grace poured out for them. I need you to hear this. I've had family friends who I know to be deeply devoted to Jesus who took their own lives. And we should be real careful about signing judgment over anyone who gets to the point where taking their own life feels like the best option. If someone gets to the point in life, like Elijah did, of even considering taking their own life, I want you to know it's not because of selfishness. It is because it feels like they are standing at the edge of a burning building and you have the flames behind you and you got a jump ahead of you that you know will bring certain death, but at some point it feels like the terror of dying by jumping is less than the terror of living with flames. That's what it feels like. And I realize that in a group this size, wherever you are watching from right now, wherever you are engaging from right now, I realize that there is a very strong likelihood, and I believe it's true, that there is someone here right now today, this is very real for you, because you have a plan, and you've been thinking about it, and you know how you would do it, and I want to speak to you for a moment. To you, I'm speaking to you. I felt very led to do this. If you are here today and you are considering taking your own life, I am begging you to reconsider. I am begging you to reconsider. Please do not make a permanent decision based on temporary circumstances. I know it is so difficult to see a way out. I know it is so difficult to see a way out, but there are no circumstances that will not change eventually. Your church is here for you. You have people here for you, and you do not need to see a way out in order to reach out. And I'm praying for you today. I've been praying for you all week. If it's one, I've been praying for you all week, and I believe God is literally gonna save lives. I've been praying that the power of the Spirit of God would give you the strength you need to choose life. This church right now, we are begging you, choose life. God is saying choose life, and that you will experience a day when this dark place feels like a distant memory. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. Elijah was there too. And he gets so real. And he gets so raw and honest with God. Now, how do you think God would respond to that prayer, to Elijah's darkness? It's so stunning. This is God's response. Look at verse 5. Then Elijah lay down and he slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and he drank and he laid down again. And then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, "Get up and eat some more. The journey ahead will be too much for you." So he got up and he ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days, 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. And there he came to a cave where he spent the night. But the Lord said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" There's no rebuke. There's no shaming. There's no correction. You don't hear God going, "Elijah, I thought you were a man of faith. Elijah, what do you mean? How could you be discouraged? Why are you in this dark place? I thought you knew you could trust me." No, just grace. You know, it doesn't say, "How dare you?" Elijah said that he wanted his life to end, and look how God responds. What does God do? God feeds him. God gives him rest. God gets Elijah to talk. Remember, he asked him a question. What are you doing here? He wants him to talk. God gets Elijah up and walking. He sent him on a walk. You know, one of the things I love about this is just how infinitely wise God is. Infinitely wise. If you're here and you're like, "Man, where do I get wisdom for life?" I hope you're going to the Bible. I hope you are seeking God in the scriptures. He is so wise. Because if you were to ask any counselor, therapist, or psychologist today, every one of them would tell you how those 4 things I just mentioned are foundational pillars for mental health. Every one of them. Diet and nutrition plays a significant role in mental health. God provides bread. Sleep patterns play a significant role in mental health. God has him rest. He gets Elijah to talk. Counseling, opening up, getting it out so you don't stuff the sadness is critical, so that you can get the right resources, so that when needed, you can receive medication if needed to help you reclaim the baseline for mental health. It all starts how? By opening up, by providing perspective. And God asked him questions. He gets Elijah up and walking, exercise. You know, there's been tons of research on this, but one study in particular in Britain found that regular aerobic exercise has the same effect as antidepressants. And God sends him on a walk. Infinitely wise, infinitely good. God comes along with such compassion, and he cares for Elijah in his darkness, providing for him an environment to reclaim health and walk out of the throes of depression. And what God does next, what he does next has massive implications for any of us who are here right now. And we're not necessarily in the dark, we're not necessarily struggling at this moment, but we know someone who is. Someone we know who is. Listen to this. This is verse 11. Look at this. Verse 11, it says, remember, Elijah's in the cave, in the dark cave, and God says, "Go out, stand before me on the mountain," the Lord told him. He's calling him out of the cave. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord wasn't in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak, and he went out, and he stood at the entrance of the cave. What eventually and ultimately drew Elijah out of his darkness? What ultimately drew him to the edge of that cave? It was the sound of a gentle whisper. God knows just what we need in the dark, and he draws us out with a whisper. I actually think this is incredibly helpful for any of us who are walking alongside people right now who are struggling with darkness of discouragement and depression. Because we want so badly for them to get out of that darkness, don't we? We love them. We want so badly. We know that they're not who they used to be. They're different now. We know that they're off, and we don't really know how to help. But what I want you to see is what is not helpful. What isn't helpful is bringing the fire. Bring in the windstorm. Bring in the earthquake. You know what that feels like? Just tell them, snap out of it. Not helpful. Just tell them to think positive. Not helpful. Just yelling louder, all the cliched answers to really complicated issues. It was the whisper that ended up drawing him out of the darkness of the cave. Now, let me ask you a question. How close do you have to be to someone to hear them whisper? Shoulder to shoulder. Side by side. And if we want the people we love most to take a step out of the darkness, it might start with a willingness on our part to get side by side, to bring a meal and sit at a table, to go on a walk and talk, to ask questions, to get them opening up. God meets him in the cave and he whispers. But God doesn't leave him there. He has something new for Elijah, and he gives him hope. It's the last thing I want us to see. Look what God does to Elijah and what he does for him. Look at verse 15. Skip down to verse 15. It says, then the Lord told him, all right, I got something for you, Elijah. Here we go. Go back the same way that you came, travel to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive there, I want you to anoint Hazael to be the king of Aram. And then I want you to anoint Jehu, grandson of Nimshi, to be the king of Israel. And then I want you to anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat. Last night I said Snapchat. I'm not kidding. Like I totally messed up in the last gathering. I said, I don't know why, Snapchat. Anyways, Elisha, son of Shaphat, from the town of however you say that, to replace you as my prophet. Now here's what I want you to see. Some of you are like, why did we just read that? A bunch of weird names. And who names their dad Shaphat, right? I mean, like, that's what you're thinking. I want you to see what God's doing in here. God is giving Elijah a gift. God is giving Elijah something incredible here. He gives him three things that gives Elijah a path out of the darkness and back into meaningful life where he's out of it. He's out of it. Three things that God does. He crushes the darkness by giving work that matters. Did you see that? He gave Elijah a job. He gave him work that matters. He tells Elijah, go, anoint a new king. I got something for you. I have a job for you. God says, I'm not done with you. And if you're here right now and you're struggling in the darkness of depression, I'm here to tell you, God is not done with you. God has a purpose for your life. God has meaning for your life. God has things he wants to accomplish in this world, and he has uniquely designed you to do that, to join him in this work in this world. You are not purposeless. He has a job for you to do, and he's saying, I got work for you to do. I got work for you to do. He gives them meaningful work. The other thing is he gives them relationships. Did you see that? He gave him a partner named Elisha, not Elijah. That would confuse people for the next 2,900 years. But he says, I want you to go and I want you to find this man Elisha. He's gonna be a partner with you, someone to walk with him. If you are in your own dark place today, I want you to know relationships will be your way out. Let our church be that for you. Let our church be that for you. The group that you're in. That's why we talk about groups and getting in one. The team that you serve on. Get connected. Let us walk with you. Let us walk with you. And the last thing that he gives Elijah is this. He gives him the choice to bring meaning to pain. This is incredibly powerful. See, we don't have a choice over the pain we experience that throws us into darkness, but we can choose whether or not we'll bring meaning to the pain. And whenever we face dark seasons in our life, we tend to focus so much on this question: how can I get out of this? That's what I ask a lot. How do I get out of this? But there is another question, a more mature question, a deeper question to ask in the middle of it is, what can I get out of this? God, how could you use this? God, what could you be able to do in my life as a result of going through this? What ways can I help others on the other side of this as well? And we know what Elijah chose. We know that he chose to bring meaning to his pain. Do you know how we know that he chose to bring meaning to his pain? Because here we are 2,900 years later and we're still reading the story and talking about it. And I want you to remember something. He was alone in that desert cave. Which means what? It means he went back and told the story. He told other people. Why? Because he wanted others to know, I've been in the dark. I've been in the dark, and it won't last forever. I won't last forever. This is why I love this little statement made about Elijah in verse 19. It just says this. After all this, it says, and he departed from there. I love that. He departed from there. He departed, he left, he went. There's a new day, there's a new road, there's a new path. He walked out of the darkness. It's possible. You can depart. You will depart. You will depart from the darkness that you're living in right now. You can depart. God's gonna lead you out. And it's time to depart where you've been. Turn to the God who can heal your soul. You know, there's no one more qualified to heal your soul than the one who created it. Which is why this statement that Jesus made about himself, it's such a remarkable claim that he makes about himself that is so powerful and has everything to do with what we've been talking about. This is what Jesus said. He said, I am the light of the world. That's a remarkable claim. I am the light of the world. Can I just ask, what do we need in the dark? We need light. What dispels the dark? Light. And the light that we need most is living and active today. And his name is Jesus. And he wants to take us by the hand and lead us forward out of that cave. Who could be so bold as to promise that they can be the light of the world? Who could be that bold? The light to lead us out of all darkness other than the man of sorrows, the one acquainted with deepest grief. There's nothing you've walked through that he does not know and understand. And I know the darkness can be scary, but the light has come. The light has come. And the darkness is not stronger than the light. The light always wins. And the darkness is not stronger than Jesus. He knows a way out. He heals, he restores, he comforts. I'm talking to someone right now who's in a dark spot. He is the light, and you are not alone. And if you're here right now, and you have felt the darkness, the chaos of darkness fall over you, I've actually asked our team to just sing a song over you. And I want you to let the words of this song settle into your heart. I want you to let them whisper to you right now. He's whispering. Let them whisper. Let them whisper. I want you to hear the light of the world whisper to you right now that he's here, he sees you, he loves you. And even though you can't see it right now, you can't, God is saying, I know when you will laugh from the gut again. I know it's been a while. I know it's been a minute, but you will laugh from the gut again. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. He's saying, I know the day is coming that you will not feel overwhelmed by the darkness anymore. It's coming. He's saying, I know that when there is a day coming that will not feel so heavy anymore. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Peace is coming. Peace is coming.
When my mind is like a battlefield and my heart is overcome by fear, and hope seems like a ship that's lost at sea, my enemies on every side, and I'm tempted to run and hide, your gentle whisper reaches out to me. Peace holds me when I'm broken, sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees. shelter of your mighty wings. Your promises are where my hope is found. Peace holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe in your peace. I breathe you in. I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far. So I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe. In your arms, I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far. So I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe. You give me peace that holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe in. I breathe you in. Take a deep breath and be still and know that you are God alone.
So I'd actually love to invite all of you to stand, wherever you are, whatever room, I'd ask you to stand. I believe that for some of you, today is that whisper from God. Some of you have been longing for a whisper. You've been maybe even praying. You don't even know what you're praying to or how to pray. You're just sitting there going, God, just give me something. Give me a sign. This is it. This is it. He had you here right now. This is him whispering. He's standing at the edge of the cave that you've been in alone, and he's saying, there's a day coming where the darkness will not feel so heavy. The light will win. The light will win. That day is coming, but we know where it starts. It starts by doing what Elijah chose to do, to open up, to get honest about what was going on inside. And so I'm actually gonna ask you to do something very courageous. I'm gonna ask you to do something courageous. In just a moment, not right now, but in just a moment, if you are living with some darkness right now, you're living with some discouragement, you're living, don't judge it. You're like, well, it's not that, don't worry about it. You just feel some darkness. You feel some darkness in your life. If you could use a little peace, if you could use a little light right now, I'm gonna ask you in just a moment to raise your hand because you don't need to say a word about it. You don't owe an explanation of what it is. You're just acknowledging. You're saying, man, I feel like I'm in some darkness. I feel like I'm in some darkness because I wanna pray for you. So right now, I'm gonna ask you, raise your hand if that's you. I don't care if it's one person, all of our rooms, just raise your hand and keep them up. I want you to keep them up. If you're here right now and you're not in a moment of darkness, but you have been in the past, and you can now say on the other side with confidence, hold on, just hold on, the light's coming. Lean into Jesus. You will get through this, and you want other people to know you will get through this. You stay strong. You keep leaning into Jesus. The power of Jesus is by your side. Would you raise your hand? That's your story. You can tell. Would you raise your hand? Why don't you look around wherever you are. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone, and we're not looking away. So I want to pray for you. Jesus, break chains where chains need to be broken. Jesus, heal wounds where wounds need to be healed. Jesus, silence lies where lies need to be silenced. We are so grateful that you are the God who can step into the chaos and crush it. You are the God who meets us in the cave, in the pit, in the darkness, and you call us out with a gentle whisper. For those of us who need to hear that whisper today, we're listening. We're opening our heart up. Thank you, God, for the reminder and the reality that today doesn't have to be our destiny, but tomorrow's coming. The light is coming. And so God, give us the power today to choose life, to keep leaning into you, to listen for your whisper, that you meet us exactly where we are and you always give us exactly what we need. You are so good. You are so wise. And we love you. And it is in your name, Jesus, we pray all of this. Amen.